Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have another one of our favorite podcast guests, Mr. Eric Harp. He is our certified professional fitness trainer. He is also an educator. And thank you, Mr. Harp, for being on our show tonight. How are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you. And happy holiday weekend we just had.
Absolutely. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Happy Easter.
Yes.
However you identify and celebrate. I hope you had a good weekend. We did.
Well, good. Mrs. Davis, I'm looking forward to this. Every time we get together, it's a pleasure. And
yes.
Unfortunately, I don't get pleasure out of talking about our current events and some of the ills of our society. However, it's a pleasure to be with you, and your content is magic. So
thank you.
We want to say that.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So let's get right to it because we got lots to talk about. But our topic tonight is going to be about water fitness once we get through our current topics. So listen, we got to talk about January 6th. We got to talk about this gentleman named Christian, and I know I'm going to say his name wrong, Abumseli. He was a Black man who was stabbed to death by his girlfriend in Florida. She is Caucasian, and she has said that there was abuse in the relationship. She said that she was going to commit suicide. However, no suspects have been named. No charges have been pressed against this woman. And a week or so ago, she was seen out in public with her father having a drink at a Miami or a Florida bar. And someone videotaped her and said, "Hey, I saw you," because apparently it's video of her bathed in Christian's blood. And she made a post. She's an influencer. She's one of the social media influencers. So I don't know quite if she's a model or just an influencer or both. She is seen in this video from a window, the video that I've seen where she's covered in blood. She's in her underwear. She says she was fighting for her life. It was self-defense, and she killed him by stabbing him. And he is gone, dead and gone, and she's out walking around free. Then we have, I don't know if you've heard about this case in Bridgeport, Connecticut. This is interesting to me. You have two Black women who happen to be dating Caucasian men. And both came up under suspicious circumstances where they both were found murdered. And the question becomes, well, automatically, we watch Law and Order and all these things. And we say, oh, the boyfriend did it, or the husband did it, or, somebody close by. We don't know what the circumstances are. But what we do find interesting is that the police did not contact either one of the families to say, hey, your daughter died. Your deceased relative or your relative is deceased and is at wherever. One of the cases, one of the young women, her apartment complex, I guess management office or manager called the family and said, your daughter was found dead. And somehow these two families were able to come together and find out that Bridgeport, Connecticut Police Department did not give them the proper, follow proper protocols, I guess, in terms of identifying and notifying them that their relative had been found dead. And then when they went to go have an investigation, one of the women's families said, we were blown off. And I was like, ooh. The next thing, because, it goes on. And I know you had some stuff to add to it. Patrick Lyoya, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Traffic stop gone wrong. An independent autopsy was done. Results came out today that this individual was shot in the back of his head. Now, Mr. Harp, I'm going to ask you to make all of this make sense because we've been through Ahmaud Arbery. We've been through George Floyd. We've been through Breonna Taylor. We've been through Trayvon Martin. We've been through Tamir Rice. We've been through Ferguson, Mike Brown. How many more times do we have to keep seeing the same issue play over while police play the same script Oh, we were in fear of our life. Mr. Loyola was unarmed. Go for it, Mr. Harp.
I wish I could. I wish I could make it make sense, because it should have already made sense. Unarmed, back of the head. I mean, he wasn't facing you. What kind of threat is a person that's not facing you? You know, was he going to back up and use booty and bump you? You know, that's a joke, and it's not a joking matter. To be shot in the back of the head. We've seen the video. We've seen the police cam video. We even seen the police cam video cut short. So there's always some kind of malfunction where the camera went crazy and you didn't see all of the stuff you needed to see. But you saw enough that the man was, first he was unarmed. Trying to get away is not a imminent. And yet, the first thing to do is to pull out a gun, shoot in the back of the head. And this is our people that we depend on, dream for, to protect and serve. Now, not all police are bad.
No.
Not all policemen are bad. However, the policing is bad. The standard operating procedure is flawed. And it's been flawed against African Americans and people of color for its inception. Its inception in our country. But the policing is bad. And our youth, our young Black people, our young Black men, our young Black women are just fall victim.
And let me add this to you too. I'm sorry to cut you off. He was an immigrant. Yes. He left the Congo.
Yes.
And I want to make that point because the Congo is supposed to be one of the most dangerous, war-torn places on the planet, not just in Africa, on the planet.
We are watching every day that we turn television, we're watching this war in Ukraine. Sympathies are pouring out from the tiniest corners of our nation for Ukraine. And it's great, but there's never, in my existence, I've never seen this. I've never seen anybody showing any kind of sympathy and support for any of the refugees of wars from countries with people of color. It doesn't have to be Africa. It doesn't have to be Africa, just anything of color. Never seen it. I've never seen this kind of outreach, desperation to, we got to support. Of course, we throw our military into our financial interests, but I've never seen this before. And if we could do this, I mean, what kind of humanitarian place would this be? It'd probably be what we say on the bottom of our Statue of Liberty. Give us your tired, give us your poor, give us your downtrodden. That's what it says on the bottom of that statue. But yeah, we don't want them. Not today. Don't give us any poor. Don't give us any downtrodden. So it's it's a crazy dichotomy of wanting to give support yet not caring about your own people. Now, as far as the women in Bridgeport, Connecticut, horrible. I mean, I don't care who you are, where you are. If your family's not contacted when if there's no ICE in case of emergencies, and the police can't, do their due diligence in that arena either, let alone walking free. Boyfriends, if, where is the investigation?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go to Florida. For the young lady who was, whatever the situation was, she was free. Was she free on bond? Was she free, pending anything?
She hasn't been charged.
She
There are no
hasn't been
charges.
charged on anything.
No.
So whatever the case was, and I'm not familiar with this video. I have to go and dig deep in to see about this. With this young lady supposedly covered in the blood and now at a hotel, and I'm sure all of this is right here on video, so I'll go find it. But I'm not familiar with that part of it. But what it sounds is horrible, because there's no justice, there's no accountability, for doing a crime. And then my heart gets sick for all of these different news articles and pop-ups that I'm reading about legitimate people getting mistaken for the bad guy, or you call the police, and as soon as the police arrive, they go to the store owner who's Black instead of the perpetrator who made nothing. And those stories have been happening a lot recently as well. We talked recently about our Hollywood director went into a bank to cash a check, and all of a sudden he's a bank robber.
Right.
Oh, he's not supposed to cash that large amount of money.
Exactly.
So it can't make sense, because it doesn't make sense by now. One of those things is that eternal question is why. Now that question that we ask of why, there's a certain amount of people that will be out there and say, well, here's a law, here's a piece of paragraph, and here's where it says why. Yet it still doesn't fit the narrative. If you understand what I'm saying, it doesn't fit the narrative.
Yes.
So here we have this young under 30 Black man from the Republic of Congo, again, the Democratic Republic of Congo, besieged in war, comes here. Parents have done it the right way because he's in the country. Okay.
Legally.
Legally. And he gets caught up, and had anyone took the time to maybe ask two more questions instead of letting it escalate hostily. So, I don't know. There's the anger management, diffusion anger. I think those are some of the better tools than to just pull out your service weapon. The service weapon, when it's needed, okay, use it. But until then, intimidation turns into fright. Fright turns into flight. Flight turns into survival. And now, I guess the police person must now handle that.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, that's where we go with it. And as horrible as that is, oh my goodness.
I
don't want to rant because I could do it all day with I don't know why, but here's my let's stay on topic as best as possible.
I know. And we're not laughing because this is funny. We're laughing to keep from crying, because as Black Americans, as African Americans, each and every day, we don't take for granted that something horrible could happen in everyday situations that many people take for granted. You're driving a car, you get pulled over by the police. For most people, the police pull you over, you present your license, your insurance, your registration, and you get a ticket, you get a warning, maybe you get both, and you can typically go on your way. However, for Black people, it can be problematic. I was just recently speaking with someone over the course of this weekend, and they were talking about how they saw two young Black boys on a street corner. Okay. Driving. They happened to be driving by, and there were like 4 or 5 police cars with these two boys. One was sitting on the curb with his hands in handcuffs. The other one was standing up in handcuffs, and they had a dog and they were sniffing a car. And it just so happens that this particular person's husband is an attorney and she is a clinical therapist. And so she pulls over and she says, okay, so what are you doing? And she pulls out her camera phone, and the police are like, well, we have body cam. She said, well, I have my camera phone and I'm going to record you. And she says, what did they do? And so it was supposed to be a routine traffic stop that turned into a search for drugs and everything else. And of course, you know, police officers were throwing out terms like probable cause and all that. Well, the attorney then starts questioning, well, what's the probable cause? And what? And then it was like, oh, wait, we can't run the normal policing that we do on people who don't know. And both of these young men were terrified. Their car, whatever was the issue, I don't know if they didn't have registration, if they didn't have the proper tags, whatever it was, the car was taken away. Because, you know, that's one of the things that police do, especially in Michigan. I'm not sure how it is in the other states, but they have quotas here. And so you have to write so many tickets. And Mr. Harp, you know, on our state highways, on our major roads that border different communities, where we have a road called 8 Mile. 8 Mile borders several cities. It's like 6 to 8, maybe more, and it might even be 10. And you, as you pass, on one side is Detroit and on the opposite side is whatever city that is. And each of those cities literally, and I mean using the word literally, has a police car stationed on the corner looking for someone to tag. And oftentimes, and I've said this to people, if you drive an old car, if you are a young African-American male, most likely you are going to be pulled over. It doesn't matter that all of your paperwork is together. They are going to pull you over. I told a story a few months ago of a friend of mine who is a national speaker. He is a worldwide drug and recovery counselor. He does programming here nationally and in Africa, and is also in Europe. And he likes Mercedes. He's well-to-do. He's well educated. He is a PhD candidate. They pulled him over. And the police officer that pulled him over said, this car doesn't belong to you. And he says, I know this car belongs to me because I bought it. I paid for it. Here's my license. Here's my registration. Here's my insurance. All my paperwork is in order. But because he is a 6 foot tall Black man, Morehouse graduate with locks, the police officer naturally assumed you must be doing something wrong. And what ended up happening was the police officer, when he ran his plate, which he had no business running his plate, but he ran his plate and he inverted one of the numbers, and that changed the registration. And so this particular individual, who is a president and CEO of a major nonprofit here in the Midwest, was harassed because he has an affinity for luxury, but he does not look like what people assume. And so we hear these stories all the time. The difference is, oftentimes we hear more about the Patrick Leoyos than we do about people who make their way to court and sue for harassment. Oftentimes it's someone's been killed or someone has been injured. But there are a couple more current events that I know you want to talk about, Mr. Harp. Let's get to that. There was a terrible, terrible shooting in New York a week ago.
You know, it's really horrible that you know, shootings continue. These mass shootings continue. Just as you asked me to make sense of make sense of any other situation, you know, this need to hold on to our Second Amendment, this Second Amendment that people interpret that gives you the right to bear arms. Just those 4 words, the right, well, that's 5 words. Well, the right to bear arms. But they don't read the rest of the sentence. The rest of the quote. We're not under any threat.
Right.
Our military doesn't have to ask citizens to take up the rights or take up arms. That's not what our military is asking us to do if we're invaded, similar to what is happening to
in
Ukraine. But that's not what they're asking us to do. That's not what we're being asked to do in our current moment, but we have the amendment to do it. Now, all these people who are saying, well, I got the right to collect guns. I got the right to have a gun. I got the right to have any kind in the world, that gun. So now here we are. Here we've been. Now we're dealing with ghost guns, and that's the biggest. All this assembled parts that are coming in the internet that people can order, and the next thing you know, you're putting your guns together. Okay, and president's trying to get rid of it. A lot of governors are trying to repeal this particular flow of, guns. But yet here we are with your NRA and your gun manufacturers. Now, with that said, young man in Brooklyn decides that he wants to shoot up a subway. Then they come to find out, yes, it's a black man, it's an African-American man, who had been on the internet posting hateful speech towards other races and talking about he would love to see them die. Now, that's horrible. Horrible. It's horrible from whoever, what race that is coming from towards another race. It's horrible. However, that's what just happened. And they got him. And they'll get him and prosecute him to the, as the law allows. And there's a mall shooting in South Carolina over the weekend here, the Easter weekend. A lot of people Easter shopping, a lot of families out, a lot of people doing that. And here we are, another mass shooting. So here we are looking to get out. Here we are looking to take these masks off, looking to get and enter back into society. And yet this one thing right here, it makes it very difficult to congregate and to go places.
It does.
Movie theaters, hanging out with families. It's time for an evening out. Let's go out to the mall and let's shop. The next thing you know is bullets are flying. And this too doesn't make sense.
Right.
Just doesn't make sense. But yet this is the world we live in, and these are the actions that are happening. I pray that this continues, doesn't continue. Hope it stops. Hope it discontinues is the word I meant to say. But I wish that we could, with our leadership, come off of the nasty rhetoric and let's tackle some of these real issues. This is 2022. You got midterms coming up this year, so all of your listeners that are voters, please get informed. Get informed on who's running. Get informed on who's doing what. If you live in the state of Texas, know what your Governor Abbott is doing.
Yes.
Know what Governor Abbott is doing with the refugees, the people who are trying to come in, the immigrants, and the gridlock on this on the commercial trucks.
Yes.
Which in the attempt to get the national attention has just shut down business of over $1 billion. $1 billion worth of business revenue. He's messed up just by this stunt. Your listeners in the state of Florida know what your Governor Ron DeSantis is doing with Disney, knowing that this Don't Say Gay bill is not just some pretty wordplay.
Mm-hmm.
That this is really on trying to limit free speech.
Mm-hmm.
The free speech that a lot of people are claiming that's our First Amendment right.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk all we want to, and a gun to back it up are the first two amendments, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're under attack for that free speech, while those who feel that they're under attack for the free speech are doing everything they can to destroy it too.
Mm-hmm.
So get involved, know who your people are, know what's going on. And with that said, let's jump into some water exercise.
But before we get to that, so there was one other big topic. So today, a federal judge reversed the mask mandate for public transportation. Airplanes, buses, trains, you no longer have to wear a mask. So, Mr. Harp, people are going back to the gym. People are working out, people are congregating and getting together. And I know people are allowed to make a choice. And I hope that people will respect and honor people's choices and not harass them if they choose to wear a mask or if they don't choose the mask. Let people be who people are going to be. At this point, I would tell people to protect yourself. However, when we get ready to talk about working out, tell us about the benefits of working out in water. I was hanging out with some friends a few days ago, and we were all extolling the benefits of swimming and water aerobics. And I said, those are like great exercises, especially for people who are a little bit higher up in age. Water aerobics is really good on your joints. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
Okay.
Listen, our bodies are 90% water. Okay, I'm gonna say 99, but 90% water.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so we need water, not just to drink it, but to be around it, and so that benefit. But yes, soft on the joints. Now, if you're doing anything in the water, here's some of the things. You run, you don't have that impact on your knees.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that impact on your hips. Okay, so you'll be able to hopefully move a little bit better. There's a little resistance to that water. You just can't, once you start moving those knees up, okay, there's a little weight to that. There's it's not just lifting them up as you do at home. However, it's easier to do underwater, but you're going to get a nice little workout. Swimming. Swimming is a total body workout. So total body workout is going to work your cardiovascular system because, one, you got to breathe, keep that blood pumping, keep that heart going while you maintain your breathing, okay? But you're using every extremity. You're using your arms, you're using your legs, you're using your hips, you're using your shoulders, you're using your extremities. And that's what swimming will do for you, all right? So water aerobics classes are great. They're great for those that can move around in the water or can't move around so much on dry land, but have excellent mobility in the water. There's many gyms that I frequent, and they have pools, and they offer water aerobics classes. Water's only 4 feet deep, maybe 5 feet deep, which would allow you to spread out throughout the pool and to work with the instructor. Now, you might not do a lot of squats so that your head goes underwater, but you'll do some kicks. You'll do some punching. You'll do some running in place. And some of those things that you do in the water will start to show effects on what you do outside the water. Improve your balance, improve your mobility. Get those arms up so that you can lift those arms up above your shoulders. But I would recommend water exercise for all ages, especially for my older and elderly enthusiasts, workout enthusiasts who, listen, benefits, weight benefits, exercise benefits are for all ages. And doing it underwater will definitely allow for exercise to continue for those who are up in age. And so I definitely recommend it.
Excellent. Excellent. So you talked about how swimming works every aspect of your body. How would you compare swimming to running? Because we're entering marathon season. We just had the Boston Marathon yesterday. And so you have a lot of people who are running. Does swimming help you be a better runner? Or can it help you be a better runner?
Well, it can help you be a runner as far as breath control, as far as learning how to read your body's breathing, regulate breathing. Swimming and running have a lot of the same approaches because it's a distance thing. You're going to need to continue to run as you move. You're going to continue to need to swim in order to move to the other side. One of the things that running and swimming do is keep your body moving, keep your extremities moving. So as you're swinging your arms and swinging your legs, you're going to keep that mobility. As you swim, you're reaching above your head every time you stroke and bring that water back. So again, the benefits of being able to move and just lift your hands above your head. What if you had to reach something in the cabinet? What if you had to put something away in the closet? What if that medicine cabinet, which is slightly above your head now, you need to get something off that top shelf? Some of us have to do just little tasks like adjusting the shower head. How can you do that if you can't lift your hands above your head? And so what swimming does is allows you to keep that mobility. Your legs, keeps your ankles. That's a big thing. Please understand, we don't want our ankles to swell from not moving. We don't want our muscles to atrophy from not moving. And so what swimming does is head to toe, keeps us going. Running does too, but running can be difficult on the joints, depending on the surfaces that we run on, the shoes that we wear, the impact of the ground that sends those shock waves up through our knees and then up to our hips and lower back. Those are things that you have to work towards, okay? If you can do it, great, but then it becomes a little difficult. The impact over time starts to get a little difficult. So running is great for those that can do it as long as you can. It doesn't have to be a full out sprint, a jog, a light jog, a nice brisk walk. But to be able to move is key.
Great. So if I'm not able to swim, can I do water aerobics? Is it safe?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't have to go underwater.
Okay.
You don't have to submerge. And for my pretty sisters who don't want to get their hair wet, it's one of those things where you don't have to get your hair too wet either. When you're in the class, depending on what type of class it is, how intense that water aerobics class might be. What you're looking at is minimal splashing. It's not intended to splash yourself. It's intended to work yourself. So we keep your hands underwater. A lot of times cupping your hands and using your hands underwater adds that extra resistance, almost like you're working with weights. And so every time that you open your hands and then close your arms, close your hands together, it's like clapping underwater. It becomes more of an incline or a fly exercise is what we call it. You open your arms and you bring them back together. It's a fly.
Okay.
And you start doing that underwater and you'll definitely start to feel some of the resistance and some of the results.
Excellent. Excellent. So you just sort of answered this next question. So there are different levels to water aerobics. It's not just one class that's considered low impact. Can you have a high impact?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, we have some faster ones to music. On land, as an instructor, I might do things, on beat. The water, the resistance is a little different, and so the struggle is a little different in order to move faster, in order to cut through the water, and that's a little bit more where the resistance comes in.
Okay.
So the challenge now becomes how much and how fast can you take it? It's easy on the joints. Let that go ahead and be that accomplishment for the first class or so. Now you're in there. Now what? Let's make things happen. And I'm, as an instructor myself, I'm looking at the class like I'm doing this for you underwater. So don't worry about what I'm doing outside the water. Do the best you can under the water, and we'll let everything else work itself out.
Okay. So when you talk about resistance and weights, can you do weights in water, or is it based more on the resistance and the type of exercise? Like when you were talking about the fly and how it has a type of resistance where you're using your own body as weight.
Well, using your own body as weight is definitely key. And there are water weights, there are water dumbbells, there are that once they soak up in the water, then they reach a certain weight, and you can do exercises like curls and tricep extensions, and all underwater with the resistance of the water. There are some resistance bands you can take underwater. This is just to add a little more resistance to the resistance of the water. But again, the key is to just keep moving. Now, once you come out of the water, if you can try it out of the water, then let's move to a weight room. Doesn't have to be a lot of weight, but let's move to a weight room. And let's continue to strengthen yourself. Let's continue to strengthen the body and take what you can, because we can all improve. We're never too old to do anything. We do have physical limitations, of course, but age, a number, is not an indicator. Levels of athletic ability, of course, but willingness to try. All of our elbows bend, all of our knees bend. And if we could just try it, then sometimes we might just amaze ourselves at some of the things we can do.
Okay. So because you were just talking about weights and taking it out of the water and into a weight room, for people who are intimidated by weights, is there a magic number that you start off with? Do you automatically start off with 20 pounds, or can you start off with the 2-pound weights or the 5-pound weights, or does it make a difference?
Well, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to try to go and max out, go to their limits or try to go past their limits on day one. It's not about that. We want resistance. We don't want to make it impossible for you to lift, because if you weren't able to lift it, why come back? You'll feel like you can't. So we start manageable, light and manageable, something that you can do 10 times, 12 times, 15 times. So if it's a 5-pound weight, do it. Start off at that 5. And then shortly we'll move up to a 10. And then once that 10 gets a little manageable, we'll move up, and so on and so forth, and leave that room for progression. You see, a lot of times we get people that are so intimidated because they just don't know what they're doing. But like, I saw that I'm supposed to lift it. I read that I'm supposed to lift, but not know exactly how much to lift. Okay. So many gyms, many gyms are offering very low very low monthly and entrance rates, staffed by people who don't know how to answer questions. That happens. However, start light. Start light with resistance, and let's work our way up. There's no magic formula that fits for everyone, but there are ways to make it happen. And there's body parts. Once you learn your body, we have a shoulder, we have biceps, we have forearms, to our wrist, to our hands. And that's just on one arm. Okay. So work those muscles, work that wrist, work the forearm, work the biceps and the triceps and the shoulders. Now we can move on to the chest and the back. And, don't forget those abs.
That's right.
This is why it's not a overnight thing. A lot of us wish we look in the mirror and we say, oh, I want to change right now. And I wish that there's some fairy godmother that could wave a magic wand and get me to look like that person. But it doesn't work that way. So what we do have to do is to put a little effort, put a little work, put a little time. Okay? Time doesn't have to be 3 hours a day. Doesn't have to interrupt your schedule. I know our schedules are busy. So finding anything new to put into our schedules is difficult. But many gyms are open 24 hours. Many gyms are open first thing in the morning. They're open right after work. They're open right before you go to bed. So there are times where you can find the gym open. And if this is something that you really want to do, go inside. Go inside and do something. And hopefully staff that will answer your questions.
I had to laugh at that because that is true. So last question. So if someone is looking for a water aerobics class, are there some particular things they should be on the lookout for? What questions should they ask?
Well, one of the things they want to do is to make sure that the pool's maintained. Okay. And then get to know the class and the instructor. Take the class, try the class. I can't speak for every class. I know the one I teach is amazing, but I know that there are really good classes out there. So try it. Just try it. And if it's something that works for you, then get to know the members of the class. Learn the reviews. What do you think of the class? How long have you been taking this class? Okay. At some gyms that I frequent, there's a few different instructors, and certain instructors have certain followings, which is good. There's certain people who take all the classes as long as it's in the water.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Harp, for being on the Kim B. Davis Show. Now, before we let you go, tell us how we can find you. Give us all of your social media links and how to reach you.
Well, ericharp9@gmail.com is my direct email. I'm at ESQ360 at all your social platforms. So you can find me under Eric Harp or ESQ360. And love to talk to you. Listen, this is an amazing thing. Mrs. Davis, you're definitely hitting it on the head with this one. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. You're our expert. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. I hope that you will join us on our next episode. You know that you can find me everywhere on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, as Kimberly Bachelor Davis, and Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom, and Clubhouse. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you'll tune in for our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.